one is above the law, and that includes police officers as well. But what happens when officers betray their oath and abuse power? Well, you get corrupt cops who think they have a badge to get away with pretty much anything they want.
Put my phone in my pocket.
But karma spares no one, and when these corrupt cops finally get caught red-handed, justice is swift and super satisfying. So join me as in today's video, I'm going to talk about corrupt cops who got caught red-handed. Number 1, ditching a traffic stop to arrest a random guy. It's obvious this cop had absolutely no idea about the law. He literally ditched a traffic stop to arrest this guy who was just filming the incident to make sure nothing went wrong. As soon as the guy opens up his camera, the cop gets confrontational and threatens to throw him in jail for interfering with an investigation. This guy is prepared, though, and knows he's breaking no law whatsoever. But upon asking the officer if he's under arrest, the cop completely loses it and puts him in handcuffs. But this corrupt officer had it coming because he literally arrested a man on video for no apparent reason. The guy was eventually released after 12 hours of being jailed and said the reason why he was recording was because the traffic stop was being conducted on young kids who looked really scared. The police department eventually launched an investigation into the unlawful arrest as well, but the best part was how this cop got shamed by millions of people online. Number 2, stealing evidence in the courtroom. I'm amazed how this corrupt cop didn't even try to hide the fact that he was stealing evidence from the courtroom. This dumb cop is pretending to read a document placed on the defendant's desk, but it's clear he's looking for something specific. And once he finds it, he signals a second cop to walk over and hands him the document, who just takes it away like nothing even happened. What's even more surprising is how all this went down while the judge was watching and said absolutely nothing to intervene. The lawyer eventually has to step in and ask this corrupt cop what he's up to, and when the judge is forced to look into the situation, she asks the police officer to apologize. But get a load of this guy. Even after stealing evidence from the courtroom, he refuses to apologize and is eventually sentenced to 10 days in a private jail cell. But the reactions are mixed on this one, as the majority of viewers think this cop should have dropped from the force for doing something so out of pocket. What do you think? Number 3, flipping a coin to decide arrest. This shameful event unfolded early in the morning when 2 corrupt cops stopped a woman for going over the speed limit. The woman doesn't even argue and immediately admits that she might have been speeding as she's late for work. It's all routine, so far as the cop asks for her license and goes back to the car to run some checks. But since she doesn't have actual footage of the driver speeding, it's completely her judgment, and instead of being a good cop and letting her off with a ticket, she flips a coin to decide whether to arrest her. Yape, you heard that right. This corrupt cop uses an app on her phone to flip a coin and decide whether this poor woman will be going to jail. The woman is crying as she's cuffed and put in the back of the police car, and when you think about it, all this because of a coin flip. But little did these corrupt officers know, this would be the last time they would wear their uniforms. Along with dropping all the charges, the judge had both these officers fired from the force. Number 4, personal matters on work time. This is another unfortunate incident of a corrupt cop abusing power and literally arresting his daughter's boyfriend just because he doesn't like him. He stops them and has the boyfriend get out and sit in the back seat of the police vehicle while he sweeps the car in search of some dirt. He probably needs a reason to arrest this young man, but during the search, he realizes his daughter is hiding in the back seat. After taking her out of the car, he goes up to the boyfriend, tells him to run off, and literally uses force to arrest his own daughter. He then starts threatening her with all sorts of things about how he'll make up some fake charges and throw her boyfriend away for life if she doesn't stop hanging out with him. Oh, and believe it or not, while all this is happening, he even ignores an actual domestic abuse call happening in the same town. Talk about abusing power. I'm glad he was thrown out of the force for this incident. Number 5. Cop pepper sprays lieutenant. Imagine serving your country in some of the harshest conditions in the world, only to come back home and get pepper sprayed. I have no idea why these cops were losing their minds, even though all the lieutenant wanted was a reason for why he was being arrested. He remained calm throughout, but asking someone to step out of their vehicle while having several guns pointed at them is no joke. He's probably thinking to himself, one wrong move and any one of these officers could shoot. Plus, it's not even like the lieutenant is hiding anything. He literally tells the cops he's scared to move or step out, and the power-hungry cop responds by telling him that's exactly how he should be feeling. I mean, he's clearly not making the entire situation any better. And they're fine with being a couple of feet away from him, but somehow he's still a threat and deserves to be pepper sprayed in the face. It's obvious the lieutenant is in discomfort, but he's still calm and collected and continues to comply as he's cuffed. Anyway, after a thorough investigation found that this cop had absolutely no reason to do what he did, he was fired straight away. Number 6. Sergeant chokes a female officer. Some cops are so power-hungry that their abuse has no limit, and it's often other police officers on the receiving end. This sergeant clearly lost his cool after his squad apprehended this criminal and put him in the back of the car. He pulls out his pepper spray and has the can just a few inches away from the perp's face, threatening to spray if he doesn't listen. Now here's why I'm confused. Number 1, he's already in the police car, and number 2, he's literally in cuffs, so why do you need to pepper spray him? Anyway, an officer notices how the sergeant is about to lose it and grabs him by the belt, pulling him away from the suspect. The sergeant goes off at the officer as well and shoves her away by the throat. And the fact that every other officer there is quiet after that says a lot about the sergeant and the department. Anyway, while he's fired for assault and battery, he actually had another similar charge from an incident discovered earlier. Number 7. It's not who you think. Looks are deceiving, and while the cop slamming this old man onto the car hood seems like the corrupt cop, it's actually the chief. Yape. That's actually the chief of the force who just showed up at a DUI scene drunk. Could things get any worse? Oh, and after getting slammed on the hood, he's trying to tell the officer something about a jacket. And remember how in the first clip, the guy was arrested for interfering with an investigation? Well, I believe the same should have been done to the chief. Either way, a few officers can be heard talking to each other, with one of them saying, "He's drunk again." I mean, if your own officers are talking about how you're drunk again, it's clear you have a problem and need to take your job more seriously. Number 8, coward with a badge. Warning, this footage is disgusting and shows a police officer using excessive force. I hate it when cops act like they're above the law. I mean, sure, they have authority in some cases, but you still have to tell someone why you're arresting them, especially when there's no visible suspicion. Like in this case, this disgusting police officer slams the guy's head repeatedly on the plexiglass and continues to assault him even when he goes down. But justice caught up to this corrupt cop, as he was convicted of 4 different crimes, including another excessive force case back in 2021. Number 9, extreme negligence. There's absolutely nothing in this world that could convince me these cops forgot this woman was in their car. After pulling this woman over, these incompetent and corrupt cops shifted this woman over to their vehicle while they conducted a thorough search of her car. The police vehicle was parked on train tracks, and honestly speaking, you can hear the train coming from miles away. But apart from that, why would you even park on train tracks to start with? And the fact that these cops still said they forgot the car was on the train tracks or forgot that the woman was in the car in the first place is just unbelievable. Anyway, the department is facing a lawsuit worth $5.5 million now after the woman suffered some serious injuries. The officer who cuffed her has now been sentenced and is probably going to face some serious jail time. Number 10. Why do body cams even have off buttons? Imagine getting dragged out of your car, thrown on the pavement, and arrested for going 37 miles per hour in a 30-mile zone. Now, speeding is speeding. This young girl should have either gotten a ticket or let off with a warning. But the fact that this corrupt cop decided to throw her out and arrest her using excessive force for a minor infringement is crazy. Oh, and just to let you know, the real reason why this cop ended up getting fired is because he had his body cam off while he did all that. It was only after he abused his power did he remember to turn it on and tell the young girl why he was arresting her. And frankly speaking, all this just makes me wonder, why are cops even allowed to turn off their body cams? But getting yeeted out of the force is exactly what this officer deserves after assaulting a teenage girl. Number 11. A wannabe tough guy. Imagine being so tough that you have to use extreme force against detainees inside a police station with several cops around you. I mean, just look at this abusive cop. He's stomping on him, using excessive force, and choking a detainee while 4 cops stand around and do nothing to intervene. And this isn't the first time he's done it either. He's been recorded before doing the same with a female detainee inside a holding cell. Just imagine what this wannabe tough guy must do when the cameras are switched off. Like all the other corrupt cops in this video, though, this guy was also sacked as soon as the video became public. Number 12. Sheriff shows jailer why he's boss. A police officer who takes charge and gets rid of the trash. The next video shows the Texas sheriff showing this jailer who's boss after he snuck a cell phone to an inmate. And credits to this cowboy for keeping things civil, because sometimes a little humiliation goes a long way. The sheriff made him look like a little kid being schooled, and honestly, that's exactly what these corrupt cops deserve. They deserve to be shamed and have their face all over the internet for breaking the trust of every citizen out there. Number 13. Florida sergeant driving under the influence. A sergeant caught drunk driving? Now that's something you don't see every day, folks. And while I'd like to give the squad credit for not giving her any special treatment, you can sort of tell just how disappointed they are. And imagine for a second, the sergeant of an entire state caught driving under the influence. Now that's just embarrassing. I mean, these are the people responsible for our safety and well-being, but they're clearly too busy thinking they're above the law. I'm glad she got caught, because if she had gotten away, I'm positive it would have happened again. Along with being relieved of her duties, she was also charged and given jail time. Number 14. Cop caught with a police detainee. This probably has to be the most embarrassing clip in this entire video. I mean, not being able to contain yourself on the job and hopping in the back seat with a female detainee, now that's just twisted on a different level. And to think about how he's on duty right now. After arresting this woman for an auto theft at some parking lot, Officer Anthony Brown puts the suspect in his back seat and drives off to the station. I'm not sure what happens between them, because the corrupt officer conveniently switches off his body camera and goes off the radar. The cops who were there on the scene notice how he's off the radar all of a sudden and thinking something may have gone wrong. They go out in search of the sneaky officer. But when they finally find his vehicle and open up the front doors, no one's there. They discover he's in the back seat with the female detainee getting freaky, and getting busted like that probably has to be the most embarrassing thing ever. I can't even imagine how he must have tried talking out of this. Now, Officer Hare did claim the woman was apparently having a medical emergency, but after some tests, it turns out there was indeed some contact. He resigned shortly after, and that's probably the most honorable thing he's done yet. Number 15. Aggressive officer assaults a young woman. I don't know why, but straight off the bat, I can tell this cop has some anger issues. It starts off with him yelling at this young woman, followed by a forceful arrest attempt on charges of suspected vandalism. And at this point, I think the officer is doing his job. Sometimes you have to be a little tough to take down offenders, but what he does next is just shocking. The young woman is clearly distressed, and there's absolutely no denying what she does is disrespectful. She spits on the officer, who loses his cool and chokes her before slamming her face first on the concrete, rendering her unconscious for a good 15 minutes. And like I just said, spitting is definitely very disrespectful, but almost killing someone? This cop is just abusing his power at this point, but credit to the other cop for calling him out immediately for his short-tempered reaction to the situation. Now, unfortunately, this cop was allowed to resign, meaning he can work as a cop in some other state, and if you ask me, I think he should have been charged for assault and fired from duty. Number 16. Chill out, man. How did this guy even join the force in the first place? The guy is already in cuffs, and maybe he said something smart to him, but instead of slamming him on the ground and tasing from point-blank range, it's your job to deal with this stuff. I mean, he just turns into a maniac and starts smacking the suspect over and over again, and that's seriously unacceptable. Thankfully, this monster was fired from the force and charged with assault. Number 17. 3 bad cops or 1? This is another clip involving excessive force when a completely compliant teenager is thrown on the ground for God knows what reason. And what I hate about this clip, and several others we've seen in this video, is that the other cops don't even intervene. Instead of acting like nothing even happened, maybe if they started calling out fellow officers for this abuse of power, these guys wouldn't be getting fired left and right. I seriously think the other cops need to be held accountable as well for not stepping in to stop the cop, because at the end of the day, it's the entire department that suffers when a big fat lawsuit lands in the mailbox. Number 18. Not the brightest bunch in the force. How dumb do you have to be to not know how cameras work? These corrupt cops are trying to get an innocent person in trouble by planting drugs themselves. The body cam footage shows the officer placing what appears to be a white bag full of drugs in an alley. The cops then walk out back towards the road and shortly after pretend as if they're going in for the search. And you'll be amazed to know they find a white bag of drugs like it wasn't placed there a couple of seconds ago. After reviewing the footage, an investigation was launched and the 3 dirty cops were suspended. Number 19. Not your everyday robbery. Watch as in this clip, we can see a sneaky burglar, but instead of your everyday robber, it's actually a police officer going through a deceased person's house. And the way he's going about it tells me this probably isn't the first time he's done it either. Anyway, as he's going through the cabinets and drawers, this corrupt cop doesn't even spare the dead person's prescription pills and steals 60 of them along with some other stuff. I'm glad this cop was caught on, because breaking into a house because of your badge and uniform is nothing but abuse of power. Number 20. It runs in the force. I'm not going to lie, this is the first time I found that this is actually a thing amongst cops. Since they have access to reports and whatnot, they probably know which houses are the best to hit. This is another police officer who snuck into a dead man's house and helped himself to a variety of goodies, visiting on multiple occasions. Along with taking a fan and some furniture, he also stole a gun safe, along with nearly 15 guns. Oh, and this corrupt cop's desperation had no end, because even though he showed up in a hoodie and sweatpants the first couple of times, he even visited the residence once during the day in his uniform. But karma was instant, and this dirty cop was sentenced to 4 years behind bars. Number 21. Arrest him anyway. This next video shows a possible wanted suspect being stopped and detained by the police. Everything seems under control at first, but the cops suddenly lose it and pull the man out of the vehicle before throwing him on the ground. The driver has no idea what's going on, and you can hear him yelling out of pain because the cops are literally poking him with their knees and elbows to get him into cuffs. It's painful to watch, but I'm glad our protectors are out there keeping us safe. Right? Well, not exactly. And you see, after all the commotion of trying to get this innocent man in cuffs, yep, you heard me right. The police realize they've made a huge mistake by arresting the wrong person. I smell a nice lawsuit cooking up. Anyway, the best way to go about it would be if all the cops apologized to the man, compensated him as best they could, and set him back on his way. But these guys are corrupt to the bone. Who cares if they have the wrong person? They still arrest the man and take him away, even though they know he's an innocent person. Number 22. Nothing less than attempted murder. Honestly, this is abuse. There's no other way to put it. Criminal or not, innocent until proven guilty. That is not how you treat people just because you have a badge, and that too on suspicion alone. This police officer rips out a man from his car, chokes him to the point where he almost can't breathe, and even punches him. And let me remind you, the man in this video is well in his 60s, and that cop is literally abusing a senior citizen at this point. Absolutely disgusting behavior from a corrupt cop who needs to be taught a lesson. That's it for today's video, folks. So what did you think of these corrupt cops? And have you ever heard of a similar story in real life? Let me know in the comments below. Also, not all cops are bad. There are millions of stories of heroic cops stepping in to save the day, so always trust the heroes in blue. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more interesting content in the future.